Hello. Today we're going to be going through how to use our software Hi Rasmus. So the first thing that you're going to see when you log into your account is your homepage. It is going to show you all of your upcoming appointments. If you see, I have an appointment scheduled for today, Thursday, June 25th. You can also go to my schedule and you can see your schedule from a daily view, a weekly view, as well as a monthly view. I recommend using your homepage, which you can always access by pressing your name in the top left corner, because then you won't get confused and you'll just see your upcoming appointments. Now we're going to go through how to take a session note and how to take data. So I want to start my session for today, Thursday, June 25th. I'm going to press the Start Session button. When you press the Start Session button, some information about your client will come up. You're welcome to go through it. Otherwise, scroll all the way down and you'll see another Start Session button. Now this is very important. Before you press the Start Session button, you have to know that this is actively clocking you in and starting an active recording saying that you started your session. So do not press this Start Session button until you are actually ready to start your session. So whether you're in the client's home, daycare, or wherever you're going to be doing your session, do not press that Start Session button until you are ready to start. When you press the Start Session button, your client's goals and programs will pop up. You'll see a list of all the goals and programs for you to take data on. Now, before I go through how to take the data, I will just show you that there is one other view that you could see the data in. If you go to the Finish Session button right next to it, there's this little button. And if you press this tab over here, you will be able to go into each program separately. If you would like to take the data like this, that's totally fine. It's however you feel more comfortable. To go back to the list view, you press the same button again. One more thing to note is that if you see in the top left corner, it is actively recording our session because we pressed that Start Session button. Now to go through how to take the data. Using our first program as an example, imitates gross motor movements. That is the program. Below it is two targets. There's clap and raise arms. So let's say we're going to be working on the client raise arms on the target raise arms with our client. When you press it, you will see three options come up: independent, prompted, and no response. So the way it works is every time the client does it correctly, you'll press independent. If you prompt the client to do the target, you'll select prompted. And if the client did not do it or did it incorrectly, then you'll select no response. And you can do this for every program listed. To use another one as an example, responds to name. The client responds to name within 3 feet of the speaker, so you'll select the target. If the client did it independently, you'll select that. If you prompted the client to do it, you'll select prompted. And if the client did not do it or did it incorrectly, you'll select no response. Now you're going to be taking data throughout the entire session. Once the session is complete, you can then fill out a session note. The way it works is that you can end your session up to 7 minutes early in order to fill out your session note. So if your session is scheduled from 4 to 7, you can end your session at 6:53 to fill out your session note. You can technically fill out your session note at any point during the session if you would like by doing the same thing I'm going to show you now by selecting the Edit Session Notes button and select Edit Session Notes. I'm going to run through how to fill out a session note right now. Session location. Where did the session take place? You're just going to select where the session took place, either in the home or in one of the community options. Once you select it, it's going to go automatically to the next field. You can always go back to any field and edit if you made a mistake. Who participated in the session aside from the therapist and client? Select all people who participated in the session. Participated means they were actively involved during the session and not just in the home. So you're going to select whoever was actively involved during the session, the BCBA, the parent, siblings. If there was nobody else present aside from yourself and the client, make sure not to select any of the options except for the last one, which says no additional participants were present. And then you can select Continue. At the start of the session, what was the clinical status of the client? Indicate how the client presented at the start of the session: motivated and ready to learn, uninterested, non-compliant, or annoyed. You're just going to select whichever one you feel best applies. Patient participation status. How did the patient participate in the session? The patient was happy to participate, partially participated, or refused to participate. Again, you'll just select whichever one you feel best applies. Interventions used. Please select interventions used during the session. You're just going to select whichever interventions you used during that session. If you have any questions regarding what any of them might mean, you could always direct those to your BCBA. Reinforcers used. Select which reinforcers were used during today's session. Again, you're just going to select whichever reinforcers you used. Barriers to progress. Choose any barriers that affected the session and you will describe the barrier in the next section. So either you'll select there were no barriers during today's session, or if you feel that there were any of the below barriers, you can select that. Describe the barriers if applicable. So if you selected that there were barriers, you'll describe them in the box below. If you selected that there were no barriers, please copy and paste there were no barriers. Please do not write NA, instead copy and paste there were no barriers. Describe maladaptive behaviors. Detail maladaptive behaviors here. If there were no maladaptive behaviors during the session, write NA. Additional information. Use this field to indicate the following if relevant: caregiver feedback, unanticipated events or behaviors that impacted the session, BCBA advice, anything in the environment that may impact the child. If not relevant, write NA. If you have any additional information you wanted to document, you could write it here. If you do not, then you could write NA. And then you're going to press the Save Draft and Close button. If you are then finished your session, you are going to press the Finish Session button. Now, please note that the Finish Session button works the same way as the Start Session button. When you press that Finish Session button, our little recording is going to stop and it is going to document that your session is over. That information is going to go to billing and it's going to go to payroll. So do not press that Finish Session button until you are actually finished your session. So again, the way it works is that you are able to end your session up to 7 minutes early to fill out your session note. So if your session was scheduled from 4 to 7. You can end your session at 6:53 to fill out your session note, but do not press that Finish Session button until 7. When you press the Finish Session button, this dialog box will pop up, and you can press OK. Once you do that, you will have an option to complete your session note. So select Complete Session Notes. It will then prompt you to finish your session note. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go to that little orange exclamation point and you're going to let your AI summary fill itself out. Once that gets filled out, you'll press Continue. And you're going to get this field. This field is going to show you exactly what time you pressed the Start Session button and exactly what time you pressed the Finish Session button. You have to make sure that this is completely accurate before you press Continue. If for any reason it does not accurately reflect the time that you started and finished the session, you can press this little clock button and you can adjust the time. Once you make sure that this is completely accurate, you'll press Continue. Your completed session note will then pop up for you to look over. You're going to read over, make sure everything is accurate, specifically the fields that were AI generated, and then you're going to press the little checkbox that says I have reviewed the AI assisted fields and confirm they accurately reflect the session, and then press the Sign and Save Session Note button. Once you press that, it will prompt you to put your signature. You will sign the session note. And the last thing that you're going to do is get the parent or caregiver signature. The way you do that is by scrolling down to the signature field of your session note, and you are going to press Add Signature. Do not press Request Signature, and do not press Pending Signature. Only press the Add Signature button. When you press that, it's going to prompt the parent or guardian to sign. You're first going to select that it's the parent caregiver signature. They are going to write their name and sign your session note. And if you see here, it has your signature and the parent caregiver signature. Once you do that, you have completed your session note. You can then go to your homepage by selecting your name in the top left corner, and you will see that you now have no upcoming appointments. If you go into My Schedule and go into the Daily View, you will notice that our appointment on Thursday, June 25th is completed. You can always go to the View session and view your session note if you would like to. If you have any questions regarding how to use Hi Rasmus, how to take data, or how to take a session note, feel free to reach out.